It's Midweek Extra. It is John Gibbons hosting. I hope you're very happy this Friday. It feels slightly strange to doing it on a Friday. Everyone's feeling weekend happy here, and hopefully you are too. We're obviously doing it on Friday because Liverpool played and won on Thursday night. They normally win nowadays when they go onto the pitch. And to talk about that, to look ahead to Plymouth, and also in part two, I want to do a little bit of a transfer window roundup because we've done a transfer show since the window slammed shut, and obviously we have the transfer guru himself, Mr. Rob Gutmann, in the room. And so why waste an opportunity to have a little look at. Very quick look at what Liverpool did, and then have a little look around at other Premier League clubs and see if anyone is casting any envious eyes at anyone else's, or we still think we are by far the greatest team the world has ever seen. They looked that last night, Ian. We can slam Spurs all we want, but I'm more interested in those boys in red, and I've got a feeling you're the same.
I don't think there's any need to slam Spurs because they're not worth thinking about now it's over.
They tried their best.
Possibly, yes.
They tried.
I'm sure they did.
No, how would you tell?
Well, they didn't see much of the ball, so...
No hap.
You couldn't tell what they could actually do. I got slightly worried. I mean, I'm going to very quickly segue into transfers here, I think. But I got slightly worried when Richarlison went off and this new lad Tell came on.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is,
we've not seen him.
Tell might actually be good. This
Matthew
could be a
Tell.
problem.
We know that other lads play for Everton,
and we know that he's.
But this guy might be all right.
And he's variable at best, Richarlison, I think.
I actually thought he played well, but it's funny scaring
him. So I got a little bit worried at that point, but I was calm the whole game. I don't want to start. I don't want to start at the top of the show by coughing all over the place, but that's about to happen.
I'll fill by talking about Richarlison.
Apologies for everyone. I don't want to start by comparing this to the 1988 team, but I've got a feeling I'm going to because I've thought about it overnight. And I went a long time from the 1988 team and the Forest 5-0 thinking you'd never see a performance like that again. Saw it when Pep's Barcelona destroyed Real 5-0 and then saw it again with us in 2020. I think we're on the edge of it. I think we're on the edge of literally being that good. This is how good this team is because we started off last night brilliantly and got better and better and better. And we've become inevitable in the same way the City became inevitable. And you would watch a team that they would put out and whatever happened, they would win. That's where we are now. We are now an inevitable football team.
Is anyone else on, this is probably a stupid question, onto Cundy on Talk Sport talking about Liverpool recently?
Apparently we're boring.
He said,
yes, I heard that.
They're boring. Liverpool are boring. Last night, Joe Miyahara was going, is that boring beating Spurs 4-0? Is that still boring, Jason? And
I like how cocky this has got.
Oh, he's the cockneyest guy in the world. But do you know what it reminded me of? It did, to warm to your point, Ian, it reminded me of... It is the best compliment when people start to be annoyed by the fact that you're not entertaining them and you're good.
It's because there's no jeopardy.
Yeah, so, that's it.
Basically, football entertainment, if you are a neutral, is, I wonder who's going to win this game. And watching Liverpool, there's none of that. And that's boring.
I also think sometimes I draw a comparison between you were saying the 88 Liverpool side. To my mind, it felt a bit more late 70s, the Kenny Souness team. That was kind of
the 78, 79.
It got very labelled as a relentless machine. It was playing superb one-touch football because it was so dominant. It was a machine, and its manager was kind of this understated man in Paisley. I think they confuse entertaining football sometimes with Klopp's theatricality, whereas Arne Slot, he's a lovely guy, but he doesn't give them a huge amount, does he? And I think the way the team is packaged is in the embodiment of the manager in some respect, and it's nothing we should worry about. It's only good stuff.
But we spent the entire 70s and 80s winning everything and being told that we were boring, and I was never bored.
Yeah.
There was never a moment when I felt bored. And I think what the media wants is they've bowed down to the idea of Pep as a genius, and his football is incredible to watch, but they're not ready to accept the fact that Liverpool are playing on a level of genius at the moment, and what we are doing is absolutely incredible. And maybe other teams who aren't thinking quite as tactically as others should think about employing tacticians once in a while, because it clearly works. I'm not having to go to Spurs.
Can I do one last retro thing before we move away from all our
Yes, as long as you do it in Cockney.
No, it's a Bill Shankly quote I remember reading when I was really young and thinking this is amazing, even though I don't know what he's talking about. He was asked, I think, even in the 70s, Shankly incarnation of Liverpool was accused of being a machine at times. And I think a reporter said, Are you is it dull? Is it predictable? And Bill went, yeah, predictable like Joe Louis. And Joe Louis was his boxing hero who won fucking everything. I didn't know who Joe Louis was when I was a kid, but I thought, I sort of know what you mean.
If Shanks likes him, he's all right for me.
I love that quote somehow, predictable like Joe Louis.
To throw in another boxing analogy, last night is like everybody has a game plan till they get punched in the face.
Yes.
When I was young, Neil,
not as long ago as us.
I mean,
he's getting closer to us, though.
Yeah, it's creeping up. It's creeping up. When I was younger, what people bored me about was, I remember saying to people say to me, the best teams can mix it up in that if you want to have a fight with them, they'll have a fight with you. But if you want to play football, they'll play football. And this is what this Liverpool team now is starting to think of me about, is that whatever style of football the opposition think that they can bring to us, like, we're okay with it, and actually we can do it sort of better than them. And often, even with really good teams, there's been, oh yeah, but they don't like this style of opposition. There's this idea, the other semi-final, for example, this idea of what Newcastle are doing to Arsenal, they really don't like. They keep getting beat, basically, and the styles make fights to do more sort of boxing, and that is a style that they sort of don't enjoy. Listen, Newcastle might beat Liverpool in the final, but because it's a game of football and they've got good players. But I just can't imagine at the moment saying about any team, oh yeah, they're really set up to beat Liverpool. I don't think anyone is. I think you need some luck and you need us to be shit.
Yeah, you need us to have a bit of an off day in a couple of ways, and as you say, you need to get a bit of fortune. You probably need to get ahead. It's why I found, I think the oddest thing, without it being about Tottenham, because a lot of it has been about Tottenham, and that's the curse of being that manager at this point. I think he has. I'll keep saying it. I don't think his players. I think his players know that whatever happens on the pitch, he'll get it in the neck afterwards. So we're all right, and I think that's a big part of it. But the one thing, as you think about yesterday's game, is that the thing they needed to do was get us out of our comfort zone, and the best way to do that would have been to score in the first 30 minutes. And they didn't look at all interested in that. Well,
they had to go at 2-0 in that way that would annoy me.
Yeah. No, if I was a Tottenham fan, I'd have been livid about it. That's what they should try and do.
When Son hit the bar.
That's a 4.
Yeah, but just around there, they have 5 minutes where they're quite good and they're attacking.
Yeah, so and they haven't bothered before then. On your sort of whatever it is you want to do stuff, though, I think, we've just seen it almost back-to-back in these games with the nature of Bournemouth Bournemouth themselves don't come, we go to Bournemouth's place and they Bournemouth like nothing on earth, and we go, okay, yeah, we can do this as well. And we matched them for it and then surpassed them over the course of the game, even though it was a relatively even game. This wasn't an even game, but we are prepared to do whatever it takes to get through those games. But there's something else that happens, I think, which is that Liverpool will put up with whatever you're trying for a bit, and then they'll go, well, that was nice, thanks. Now it's our turn, and now we play the way we want to play, and now the game's the way we want it to be. So we've sort of looked at you there for 20 minutes, and we, it was interesting. It was that's not seen that before. To do another quote, which was Adam Gilchrist to Ian Bell when facing up against Shane Warne in the Ashes Down Under from behind the stumps, as Ian Bell tried to get after Shane Warne, and Adam Gilchrist says, "Oh, this is an interesting approach. I've not seen anyone try this before." There's an element of that with Liverpool at the minute where they're going, "Yep, all right." That's fine. That's nice. That's what you're doing today. Okay, well, we're going to do this now to either nullify or shift you. And now we're just playing the way we want to play. And now it's our game. And we own the game. And I thought that was what last night was to such an extent. Liverpool just took complete ownership of the game. I think the issue, from a Tottenham point of view, is I think they abdicated that ownership far too quickly to Liverpool. And the best thing they could have done, as I said before, would have been to have a game plan as to how this goes 2-0. Because if it goes 2-0, all of Liverpool's being in the ground, the jeopardy point's dead interesting, because at no point he scores on 34. He basically scores 5 minutes after I've gone, we're going to score in the next 10 minutes. If you know what I mean. Like, it's around the time, it's a Bosley disallowed goal, and you just think to yourself, well, we're going to score again in a minute, that's fine.
That was the moment the disallowed goal, wasn't it, when you knew?
Yeah, you just knew, we're going to score again in a minute, we're going to score again in a minute, and this time it's going to count.
Anyway,
yeah.
So.
Well, there was one just before the Bosley one where there's a back post and Robertson's there ready to sort of head it in, and he just nips it off him, and you're like, yeah, it's coming.
Gray does really well.
Yeah, but it's coming.
And you just thought, well, it's happening now. And the point is that you're able to play with a state of relaxation. At no point really. I had a little minor, not so much because they were having a go. I just thought is there a horrible little sting in the tail at 2-0 if we don't make this 3?
Yeah.
You know, because it had been so straightforward to 2-0 and games of football are games of football. That was my only real wobble, both before the game and after. Talking to people before the game and talking to people after the game about the feelings before the game. Everyone was predicting 3s, 4s, 5s. That this is...
I was more nervous. I was more Gary Neville with this. I thought... And this is why people should not take things away from our performance. Tottenham had it all to play for. The biggest game of their season. That we approached the game with a 1-goal handicap because they'd spawned that one. They had a lot to hang in there for. And it was you'd seen it the night before with Newcastle-Arsenal, where I thought Arsenal are going to be buoyed by that 5-1 over City. But they've still got to score first at Newcastle. If Newcastle get the first, I know they had a 2-goal lead, not a 1-goal, but if Newcastle get this first, they're dead in the water. And I thought, if Spurs score first, as you're saying, we weren't dead in the water, but fuck me, it becomes an uphill battle then.
But that isn't how they approach the game. And if that's on them, that's one of the ones that's on the manager, then I'll sort of, you know, he can cop for that one himself. And he's a big enough boy, and he's got to cop for enough criticism at the minute. He doesn't really care what Neil Atkinson of the Anfield Wrap saying, and nor should he. But I think that was the oddity for me, is if there was a time, and also because this Liverpool side has at times this season conceded an early goal and did a fair bit last season, I think therefore putting us out of our comfort zone might have been interesting. But as it was, we just pretty much got to create our own comfort zone, see them off insofar as there was anything to see off, exist in our comfort zone, and just comfort zone our way to 4-0 in the end. You know, and they've got good players, and I think that there's a number of issues knocking around the place. I think that the captain's a big problem, and it's madness that they've given him another year. Genuine madness they've given him another year, almost certainly on the same deal. So he's probably their highest paid player, and he's a massive, massive issue for them now, Son. He looks so far away from what he used to look like, and the rest of the side's malfunctioning around him. But all of that said, Liverpool were just excellent with the changes that they made. You know, I think that Jones has a bit of an unsure first half. I thought he was great second half until he got substituted. Thought Nunez does brilliantly all the way through the game insofar as dealing with set pieces. You know, he wins so many first balls at their set pieces.
He wins the first 3 corners.
Yeah.
Spurs corners, he wins the first 3.
He's word perfect, virtually, Darwin. It's strange, weird guy. I think he's a goal away, although he doesn't actually look like he's going to get a goal apart from when he wins the pen. He's a goal away from us coming off and go, I think Darwin's man of the match.
Gakpo hits the post. If Gakpo squares it to him, he's got.
Yeah, he should pass. He should pass there.
And
he's got to tap in.
And Nunez would just tap that in, and then from there, then everyone would be saying, and that was the goal that crowns his performance. You know, it would have been nice if him and Szoboszlai both got one, because it was also the best those two have worked together, both doing those jobs at the same time, but also both being able to really contribute in attack and play at the same time, not just doing all the spade work, but loads of good touches. There's one where Nunez knocks it off to him first half. Szoboszlai in the penalty area, it's a lovely touch. Szoboszlai should strike it first time.
I mean, that's not an easy penalty to win. You know, it was a reminder that he's probably over 10 yards the quickest player we have in the squad. It's incredible to get there, and the touches just also, if you get there at that speed, if he got a heavy touch, which he'd have been entitled to do, and it just rolled out, the referee would have gone, it's one of them. He wasn't going to collect the other side, but because his touch is just subtle enough and gets there ahead of the keeper, the referee, he'd have been round you and scoring. Go on.
He looks like he's going to be seconds the ball all the way through. It broke right in front of me, and he does look like there's no chance he's getting the ball.
I didn't think he had a chance. No, it's really, really incredible. He has a really good game. I did think, I mean, just going back to Spurs, the fact that they were led by Richarlison, playing for time from minute 1 was a big fucking giveaway. And I've seen Liverpool teams down the decades fall for that shit, you know,
get frustrated.
And I thought, God, they're really going for this, aren't they? To real piss us off. And Richarlison was horrible with that. But we just kept very, very cool. I've never seen a game, I think, given how the tie had to work out, so more won at 1-0. Just getting level. Because to your point, Neil, that if they score first, it's 2-0. Psychologically, it's a bit of a mountain, and any other adversity you can get in your own heads. But I thought at 1-0, they knew they were fucked. Because if that was a one-off tie at Anfield and it starts 0-0, there's no chance. There's only one winner.
But I was similar to Neil at 2-0. At 2-0, I thought the only jeopardy in the game was these will spawn something here. And if these spawn something there, they will sit on it and we'll end up going to penalties. But that's my paranoia. It's not the team's paranoia, because the team was fine. The team were relaxed. The team were like, okay, that hasn't worked. Go back, reset, start again. Keep going, and just go again.
It's football narrative paranoia. I had exactly that thing. I'm not sure. And because we've seen the story play out like that before, But I'm not sure they were showing any real signs of doing that at all.
No, none whatsoever.
We were so composed.
There was just almost the idea of if we just tried to 2-0 this through.
I said what you're saying.
Yeah, it was more the idea that if they just tried to 2-0 this through, which there was a little mini split second of, I thought, we might end up getting a sucker punch there. But when I say, I mean, my point is that this was my only slither of concern.
Yeah.
My only slither of concern at 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, the match kicking off at 8, all the way through to effectively a point at about 67 minutes, when I just thought, I can see a little bit of a trapdoor. That was the only time I sensed a little bit of a trapdoor.
Somewhere around 9:10.
What massively helps us, though, and what, hurts Spurs, and if Andrew was here to rebuff Atkinson,
mate,
he would say, first of all, mate, and secondly, have you tried playing against Virgil van Dijk?
If Andrew's here, he'd be trying to punch at least 2 of us.
Yeah, well, I mean,
whilst looking at his shoes at the same time,
we get some hits on YouTube.
He's not making eye contact.
I'll tell you what.
No, he is not, only with his shoes.
Imagine little wee Hannah rubbing his face, rubbing his hands together after Andrew comes in and leathers people on YouTube. Yeah, exactly.
It's quite scary when he looks at his shoes, isn't he? You go, he's doing that he's counting to 10 in his head. He might just hit whoever's interviewing him in a minute.
He's going full to
Listen, mate, I've hit bigger lads than you. Bang! But I'm going to look at my shoes, and you're okay while I do that. He's fucking fuming, isn't he? It's not, but in all joking aside, when he started doing that a few weeks ago, that looking at the shoes thing, they really should have sacked him then, quite frankly, because that's the body language. It's a joke, really.
He looks
he's a man who's absolutely beaten.
Virgil, though.
Yes.
I'll try you.
Sorry.
Because that didn't work.
You had a good go.
I was going to go to
And
Virgil.
just box office.
You're too late. Go on.
I also like that Rob's decided he's just doing impressions.
I can't do Virgil, but he sound like Schwarzenegger.
So there is it's beyond a joke, really, and I'm pleased he's getting the full on praise. We're doing the pink last night. Dan Austin just sort of said, I feel like for any game this season, he said, like John Aldridge between 2006 and 2009, just said Steven Gerrard when asked man of the match. He says any game this season, I could have said Virgil van Dijk, and I'd almost certainly have been right. And that is where Virgil is at the minute. You could just say Virgil van Dijk every week, and he could almost certainly be right. But as Dan says, last night he crowns it with the goal. And it's great that he gets a goal. He deserves a goal. He clearly wanted more than anything to put right what went wrong in the first tie. And where he ends up is, getting the plaudits, which he's deserved, I'd argue, for 4 or 5 of the seasons he's been here in general anyway, full stop. There's maybe a blip in 22-23, and obviously he can't play football in 2020, 2021 because of the injury. But apart from that, he's been so good, and at the minute he's hitting some sort of level. I think it's a remarkable thing, the way in which he plays the game. He's able to deal with combative centre-forwards, lithe centre-forwards, aggressive centre-forwards. He's able to deal with wingers when they move into a space. Whatever you want to throw at him, he can deal with. But it's not just that. It's not just that he stops. It's how much he starts. And so much of the game ends up going through him. He sets Liverpool's tempo in the back 60 metres of the pitch, basically. He decides the speed that we're going to play at more than any other player. I think rightly at the minute we're praising Gravenberch to the skies, but there's a bit of football Gravenberch doesn't have to do as a deep line midfielder, which is set the tempo, because Virgil's doing that.
A lot of what we talk about with Trent when we tuck him in and quarterback, Virgil does that anyway for us. I was sort of thinking this morning about his age and how much longer we can enjoy this for. If you put players around him who'll do his running for him, and he can play on the part of the pitch he wants to play, he can play easily for another three years as being massively influential.
Yeah, I think
and dominant in the air. When the game's in front of him, I think he can play at the highest level for 3 more years.
Yeah, quite possibly. But I think that he himself though wants to be able to do it all, and then add this as well. And last night it was just the number of times he actually had a bit of frustration with his teammates, because as far as he was concerned, they weren't going quick enough. It was time to make it quicker. So then the ball comes back to Virgil. So what happens immediately is he passes it 30 yards rather than 15, misses someone out as if he's telling them all, it's this now.
Yeah.
So that's I've sorted it now, but from now on, can we just go at my... And then when it goes 2-0, he does a little wave, and he just sort of starts to say, should we just calm it down a little bit for a minute? Like, everything the game is being... In the 60 metres to there, it's Virgil's game. The 40 metres the other side, it's Salah's game. And that's the way Liverpool play. If in doubt, pass to Salah.
The bit where he played an attack for a minute, you just caught it off. It all broken down off the free kick, and there was every reason for him to go back, and he thought, no, I'm staying forward here. These bums, aka Tottenham, aren't coming forward. I'm staying forward.
And if we do, we can get back.
I like you clarified who the bums were in case we were wondering. AKA Tottenham.
AKA Tottenham.
There was a moment last night, and I know everyone's talking this moment about the moment where he goes to offer his hand to Richarlison to pull him up, and he goes, nah, sorry. But there's a moment last night, which is one of the best captaining things I've ever seen anyone do. We score. We're off towards the left-hand side of the Annie Rose celebrating. He's in our half going, you lot, here, now. You've done nothing.
It's level.
Get started again. Yeah, it's level. He's the focus from the man. He's a winner. He's determined. And he's going to get, we don't know where he is with the contract, obviously, but he's going to get every single second he can out of this season, just as a starter.
I don't like individual awards in the game. I think they're bad, and this is actually one of the reasons why I think they're bad. I think at the minute you can make a really strong argument through Liverpool's spine that there's three very strong candidates for Player of the Year at the moment in terms of Van Dijk, Gravenberch and Salah. And I think we're especially sympathetic towards Gravenberch because of the way last season went coming into this season. So realistically, there's probably just two.
Yeah.
But the idea that you've got to split them, like I couldn't pick them. You know, the idea that the PFA or the football writers can sort this out, especially if Liverpool continue on the current trajectory, I think it's almost unfair. I'm not, and the point, and this is why football's a team, like they win because they win the league, if you see what I mean. So they go on and they win the league, and hopefully they win other trophies as well, but we want them to win the league more than anything else. And that's the thing, that's the award, that's the prize that really matters. But people do make more of a thing these days of individual awards, and you are in a situation, almost like the ideal outcome is that one of them wins the PFA and the other one wins the football writers. But how do you arrange that? Should we start making calls?
They're the best three this season in the country. I mean, people will argue Cole Palmer. I'll throw Chris Woods into the mix.
Yeah, the big man.
But our three are the best three.
I think that's sort of where it is, and the story of that is told in the table, and it's told in Liverpool's progression and all the competition. They've got to keep that up. Don't get me wrong. There's a long way still to go till May, and the prizes, those prizes, but also the ones that we really want, that's when they're handed out, apart from one of them in March, obviously. But I think that is the situation at the minute, and we're lucky to have them. And then everyone else, the teammates are lucky to have them as well, but the teammates are living up to their standards and doing what they require with them at the same time. And last night's a great example of it, really, where you came away from it and you can make an argument Nunez as man of the match if you want to be hipster. You can make an argument Szoboszlai's man of the match because he crowns it with a goal. You can point out that Salah's head off again, being at the absolute business. You've got Carragher doing brilliant packages for 2 minutes on the wondrousness of Van Dijk. Gravenberch has another excellent performance. Gakpo yet again scores the opening goal. This is, there's 6 footballers there who you can all make convincing arguments.
Oh, by the way, a lot of people gave Bradley man of the match as well.
Yeah,
that's how nuts this is.
Of course, because you've got the Northern Ireland contingent aggressively marketed to by Craig Hannon.
But he had a very good game.
And he was very good indeed.
Straight for the third goal, isn't he?
Yeah.
That's fantastic run. It's fantastic run down the middle of the field, but we're not even talking about how the vision of McAllister, because he could have played the ball for him, goes, no, just take it over here a bit.
But Neil's point about men of the match all over the bloody show, I mean, that does happen when you win well, but still.
Yeah, and this goes back to 78, 79 again, doesn't it? Because we had Hansen, Souness, Dalglish.
Yeah.
And then, you'd argue that Rush for the hipster call there.
Yeah.
It's not in 79.
Not 79. No, he was a twinkle in the eye. He was a twinkle in the eye there.
But I think the idea...
we had the three of them.
But I think the idea of them all helping each other, even if it's not sort of obvious, I think is correct. And I think, I think there was a while that Salah wanted the captaincy. I think if you were to ask him now, he was like, yeah, it's probably Virgil, isn't it? And, he's worried about all this tempo stuff, and I'm just having a great time. There's a part of me, there's a part of me, no disrespect to Jordan Henderson's very, very good period as Liverpool captain, does kind of, if you could turn back time, I've given it to Virg 5 years ago, because I'd like to have seen a long period of Virgil van Dijk lifting stuff. Do you know what I mean? Jordan lifted well. He did lift well. Yeah, he did lift well. Yeah, I'm being unfair to Jordan. It's just a parallel universe where I think Virgil deserved more.
But Virgil can lift more. And this is the point. There's the contract stuff, but as your point before on the longevity, but I don't even see that being that much of a problem. It might be that next couple of seasons you just need to be, but also this is the opportunity to succession plan as well. Maybe a little shrewder in managing his games. Maybe it's more that than it is anything else, because I don't think he'd want to be mollycoddled through football matches. And at the minute, the idea that let's just say he went down a rung right now, which he's nowhere near doing, but if he goes down one rung, then he's just got to deal with the ignoble status of being the best centre-back on the planet.
Yeah.
If he goes down one rung, rather than possibly the best centre-back who's ever played the game.
This is kind of my point. You can let him be a weaker version of himself, but you still have to pick him every week.
Because he'll be better than
he'll be better than everybody else you could buy. Yeah.
So you just, this is the situation with him now, and I'm, it's brilliant to watch, and there's no reason why you can't be picking up 2 bits of silverware this year. Can't be picking up 2 bits of silverware next year if the contract stuff gets sorted out. That's obviously getting so far ahead of yourself, and you've got to be careful. But there's no reason why Virgil van Dijk's not going to walk away, A, from a Liverpool career littered with silverware, but B, from a Liverpool captaincy littered with silverware. And it's what he deserves.
I think it's what he'll get. Okay, we're going to have a short break now, then we're going to come back and talk about transfers. Okay, we are back in the room. It is still John Gibbons. I'm still joined by Neil Atkinson, by Ian Salmon and Rob Gutmann. I'm not even sure I introduced them at part one, to be honest with you, but these gentlemen need no introduction. So there we are. So if it didn't, I apologise of sorts. But we are going to get into the squads, Liverpool's squad, and I mean, I say all rivals, but I'll use rivals in the loosest term because
those bums.
Yeah, exactly. Because sort of no one, but eventually, I mean, they all become rivals eventually, I suppose. And so we'll be very loose and possibly generous with the term. But Liverpool don't do anything, Rob. It didn't ever look like they were going to. It's clear to me that they're looking for a left back. We've been linked with so many, and there's been so many agents talking that they are sort of seemingly looking for a left back. But from when I got people on to talk about players linked and stuff like that, all the indication was it was the summer. So once that was clear, it always felt unlikely that Liverpool were going to do anything.
Yeah, anyone who was disappointed coming into the last week that we weren't going to do business hadn't been paying attention from the first week, because the signs are always there. The briefing, well, not the briefing, what am I talking about? The mood music around football is Liverpool's squad is ridiculous. It's almost like it's a cheat code. Liverpool have got too many good players. And if you don't agree with that, you're not paying attention to what's happening this season. And if you do agree with that, which is the logical thing to do, I don't see how you easily see how you buy for us at the moment. I think you're right, the left back position, everyone can see that we aren't getting peak Andy Robbo, and improvement by Simicast doesn't compensate for that.
Although Robbo was excellent last
night.
Robbo... He's having a great 2025.
Yeah. But it's just more evidence for me that to be able to keep... I'd like to keep him around the place for at least 2 more years, but be able to pick and choose his games. So if you could bring in somebody who could maybe share the games with him or take more off him, like Emilos Kerkez, then that's an obvious place where you could improve the squad. But then again, he's got to be the left back choice. Got to be good to be better than peak Andy Robbo. So we weren't just going to pick that fella up in January. If they've identified Kerkez, who I like a lot, well, he wasn't going to leave Bournemouth this January. He said as much himself. So we were always going to have to wait. Across the rest of the squad, you can see we're not being linked to top centre halves as much as people would like to buy defenders, because we've got a lot. We got linked to Hato at Ajax, the 19-year-old who was. Had a guest ticket in the crowd the other week, but that's how I think they'll shop for in that department. And up front, who are you picking? I mean, our weakest two in inverted commas are quasi man of the match Darwin Núñez last night, and Chiesa, who everyone's itching to see play more football for Liverpool. Again, how do you buy for this squad?
Yeah, and that is the question, Ian. And I spent the summer wanting more players, but that was based on past injury records, and it was based on maybe not being sure about a couple of players that we've had who've sort of really kicked on this season. And so, like Rob says, you've got to look at the evidence sometimes rather than your own sort of fears and panic and just sort of go out and get footballers. Everyone in football, every other supporter of every other team are talking about Liverpool's bench and how ridiculous Liverpool's bench is. Arne Slot saying in press conferences, my hardest job all week is who I don't put on the bench. Yeah. He said that's the hardest thing I have to do, is to basically say to someone who's trained all week, who's a really good footballer, not only you're not in the team, but I can't put you on the bench because there's only sort of so many places. And so I think it is fair and reasonable to sort of change your mind on it. And like I said, I'm sure there's clips of me in the summer saying, we need another defender and another midfielder and stuff like that. I'd have probably wanted 2 more then. But the massive thing is just how fit he's got everyone. And that, well, I say it's obviously a group effort, and he's brought people with him, and he came in with this big reputation, the manager and his team, on conditioning and the players don't get injuries. And that's what you're seeing. And if everyone's fit, you just sort of need less of them. And then when they're playing great, there's not an obvious reason to upgrade just for the sake of it.
Well, you can only register 25 plus kids, can't you? And the fact that he was talking about we should have 23 on the bench just so I'm not upsetting people. It's not because you want more subs. You can't use more subs. But Joe Gomez is fit enough to play at the moment, isn't he? He's back. He's in full training. He's fit. He couldn't make the bench last night. Chiesa couldn't make the bench at the weekend. And it wasn't because either of them were unavailable. It was because we've got this many people on the bench. We've got a left back and a right back. Last night, Gomez isn't there. Obviously, Trent's not there. James McConnell would probably be on the bench of every other team in the country. And it's almost as though football understands what we're doing more than possibly parts of us as a fan base do. Because while our natural impulse is, well, yeah, but we need another central midfielder. We just need one more body just in case Gravenberch gets injured. And they're going, well, he's not going to get injured because we're fine. Because there was an article, I think it was in The Athletic yesterday, the day before, about the conditioning coaches brought with him.
Brought in, what he's doing.
What's his actual name?
Something Peters, I think.
Wasn't he the psychologist we had?
Steve.
He's had a knee in the middle of it.
Good.
Martin Peters. There's a throwback.
I was thinking exactly that name too.
But he's there.
Mary
and
Peters.
The fact that we're doing...
Another good one.
We're doing longer.
Saint. Sorry.
See, I'm actually, for a change, I'm still trying to talk.
You're having a go, aren't you, Ian? You're having a go, and everyone's just giving you the responsible after the game last night.
I'm trying to redeem myself from the Ian Rush faux pas, and it's not working. The fact you hadn't introduced us, I was going to try and blame it on Cav till you admitted it was me. I've got a small selection of people as old as me and the only other ones here. So, well, nearly.
That's Cav.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So I can blame Cav because he's not here. And now I've gone completely. No, so they're talking about the fact that we're doing longer training sessions, but less intensity, reduced the intensity of the training sessions, but they're giving them longer on the field, so they're building up the conditioning. And then Arnold's come out last night, and people are asking him about, is he worried about the mountain fixtures? He's like, no, because the more games we play, the better we're going to get, because they are conditioned, and this will keep them in the rhythm that they need. So it's the same as training. So the position we're in now, where we've actually given everybody these, and I know obviously players have always had individual plans, but the individual plans they've got, the less intensity in the training, the constant keeping on top of them in terms of fitness. We don't need more. And if we did need more, if we'd have got Zubimendi in the summer, Gravenberch wouldn't be playing where he's playing. If Gravenberch isn't playing where he's playing, would Zubimendi be as good at his job as Gravenberch has been? We've got no way of knowing that, but Gravenberch has been fantastic. So not getting Zubimendi has been an absolute bonus for us. So who are you going to buy? And we said this so many times, who are you going to buy that's going to improve this squad?
It's hard, isn't it? Because injuries can happen no matter how good you are, Neil, at preventing them. You know, you can have... you can have Steve Peters, Martin Peters, all the Peters that you want.
You
didn't mention him.
You were desperate to join in. But without knowing where that might come. So, you know, tomorrow we might wake up and both left backs are injured. But you can say, oh, we should have bought another left back. But if but then it could be a wide right. Do you know what I mean? You're never going to be able to sort of cover every eventuality. What the manager said he wants is two good ones in his position, and that's what he's got.
And you can only register so many. It's worth remembering there's rules. You know what I mean? You can only register so many players. You can only register so many players who are homegrown and not homegrown and so on. All of that said, I don't want this to sound as though I don't think that they should be strengthening in the summer. I absolutely think they should be strengthening in the summer. I think there'll be room to do at least 3 moves in the summer that make this squad a better squad. And I think that's got to be the aim and the focus for everyone involved, really. I think that it'll be time to do that in the summer in a couple of areas, and some of it's going to be a little bit of long-term planning, and other bits and pieces may just be that you've got an immediate first-team boost that you're going to throw in. And we already know as well that we're getting a goalkeeper in the summer as well, and that's on its way. So, you know, I think it's just that it's difficult to do business that makes you feel as though you're in better nick by the end of it. That said, I think it's difficult for us because we think we've got lots and lots of really good players, and even a couple that there might be question marks over, I don't think that they were necessarily desperate to be leaving this club at this moment, playing a part in this season. And one in particular who there was noises about just does not want to leave the club full stop in terms of Elliott, and he's got a contract, and you're going to have to bear that in mind with all of this. It is worth saying that, you know, I think you can want a player to leave, but unless you're going to effectively act as though Amorim has towards Rashford, you can't force a player out. And I don't think
hope no manager of ours would ever do that,
or would have cause to, because the cultural setup is exactly where you need it to be. You know, you don't want to be alienating footballers, so I think you've got to stay rational and stay calm about this, but simultaneously say, you know, I think there'll be, you know, left backs being mentioned. I think there's an argument that you need to work out your contingency Van Dijk situation this summer, which may well lead to a centre back coming in who may not be starting straight away, but you've got an eye on, and you want to build, and you want him to learn from Virgil, but also in the long run be maybe the player who leaves for Virgil. And I think there's still obviously room for one more midfielder of any type, if you know what I mean, because I think the others would be sufficiently adaptable to work around that. I do think at the minute the idea maybe of a starting attacking midfielder, which is where I was in October, feels a little bit less important at the minute because of the performances Szoboszlai's putting in, because they're so exceptional. And then you might choose to do something in attack if you can move one of the 6 on that you want to move on, and you might decide that you want to remake that front line, but you've got to move them. So I've just said 4 there. There's 4 bits of business that I think are very plausible to be done before you even deal with the contract. That's assuming all 3 of them stay. If one of them moves on, then I think you're in a situation where you've got a decision to make. If the right back moves on, then you've got a decision to make in defence. If the centre half moves on, then it's all systems go to replace him immediately. There's no hanging about. And obviously, if Salah goes, you are then looking at completely remodelling an attack. So in the universe where the 3 sign, I'm still saying that they should be looking at 4. Potentially 3 for certain, but 4 potentially.
It's a question of the degree of churn here. Now, in my football lifetime, and I'm guilty of it every summer, we went into last summer going, Barca are sniffing around Diaz, and there's rumours about Anthony Gordon. We still don't know if we were going to be watching Salah's last season. We hadn't got Chiesa at that time, obviously. There were question marks all over. You could make cases for question marks in all the positions on the pitch. And as you've just elucidated, Neil, you can go, we don't know if X, Y or Z are going to be playing for Liverpool in 12 months' time. But football history, especially at the top level, shows that the churn doesn't ever happen quite at that rate. If Liverpool... I don't think they're not going to lose out on all 3 contracts. They might lose out on 2, but I'll tell you what, if Salah goes... They're not letting Darwin. I don't think Darwin Núñez goes, for example.
No, I don't think Darwin Núñez goes anyway.
Well, that's a possibility. It's a bit like City. Okay, maybe last summer was a bad idea, but I can't remember how many summers I sat going, they might lose De Bruyne to somewhere, or Kyle Walker's been talking about.
No, but I don't think
Bernardo Silva might go.
But I don't think it's insane. I don't think it feels wild if I sit here right now and could say I can see in a universe where possibly for the first player I'm going to mention it's just on loan, but that Quansah, Shimikas and Endo all move on in the summer.
Yes.
It doesn't feel like I'm pulling, it doesn't feel like I'm pulling things from absolutely nowhere before you get into anything else. And then, as I say, maybe one of the front 6, the 6 options in attack chooses to move, or we get an offer that we like and they get the club that they like. I think it will be very much on that. I think it'll have to work for all parties for something like that to happen in the front 6. I think there will be a constant argument Liverpool should be going and chasing. I think it'll almost certainly be a centre forward, but I don't think Liverpool are selling Jota or Núñez if the figure in Richard Hughes' head isn't hit. I think it is as simple as that. I think when you look at other clubs, John, because they're on the horizon, you just sort of get a bit of a shiver when you look at Villa's business. In that
it's a laugh.
Well, it's a laugh, but they've also got loads of lads who love blamming it in from 20, 25 yards. And that's sort of the thing I think maybe beats Liverpool at the minute. If we go to Villa Park and Marco Asensio starts and he just whacks 2 in, and there's nothing you can do about either of them. And so they've done Asensio, Marlon and Rashford, and they got Disasi because they got themselves into a bit of a crisis in the centre-back position and they wanted to let Diogo Carlos go. It had not worked for. So they've let Duran go, who, by the way, was another one who sort of worries you in terms of he just whacks it in. So fair play. It balances out, and they've let Philogene go as well. Buendia has gone to Leverkusen on loan because his fitness is non-existent.
But can I just go back to your point about the ones we could let go without it being, what's the word, too much of a shell shock to the squad, like the Tsimikas, the Endo. You could always also probably throw Chiesa in. I think Liverpool's most sensible strategy at the moment would be let's imagine a world without those 3 come next season. Now let's upgrade with them, but not with the squad players they are. Let's spend money on a big left back who could push all our existing left backs out of the way. Let's buy a midfielder good enough to probably threaten Szoboszlai and even McAllister.
Or Gravenberch.
Let's buy a forward who isn't just going to play the Chiesa's 6th role, could knock any Gakpo or Diaz out the team or whoever. Do you know what I mean? I think if they do that, sort of strengthen the squad by aiming to... I'm sure that's what they will do.
Yeah.
Replace technically in inverted commas the 3 weakest in the first team squad with 3 who could be actually the 3 best in the first team squad or have that ambition. That's probably the road home for Liverpool in transfer strategy terms.
Absolutely, and again, I say again with Quansah, what I'd be looking to buy is, I've mentioned Huijsen on other shows in the past. I think he's a good example, but I'm sure there'll be others. You're buying the lads who you think in 4 years' time will be the next Van Dijk, but in the meantime...
Which is what we tried to do with Lenny Yoro.
Yeah, but it'll also be really useful if he can at the same time play with Van Dijk. as well, because you know, and you want someone else to challenge in there as well, and there might be some movement in terms of how you use Gomez a little differently or something like that, and you go from there. But there's loads that they can do. But you don't look around at whatever anyone else has done and go, well, they've either solved one or two problems. I think that West Ham Ferguson looks smart, because who else are you getting at this point? And it's almost a summer job that now, but it looks smart all round. City look like they're trying to solve some problems in the long term and do a little bit in the short term and just look less sad. As I say, Villa look like they've got more lads who are going to batter it into the back of the net from distance and might threaten us when we play them, but then they've got to play everybody, I think, to a degree or something like that, I'm sure. And Arsenal didn't do anything either. So, you know, you're just sort of in a situation where it's all a bit as you were.
But Arsenal are in the position where the manager's complaining about the fact they haven't done it.
Well, they needed a striker, and he was honest about that. And he said, "Listen, everyone knows what we wanted to do at the start of the window, and we didn't do it." And you know, that's a reminder that it's not as easy as just saying you want to buy someone. It sort of happens. You know, they were in a position where, you know, they're not even necessarily looking to upgrade. They're just looking to get one in.
Looking to get through.
They're looking to sort of get one in who could sort of make a difference. Now, you know, would they have been interested in Evan Ferguson? I don't know, because he probably plays there. Now, since then, they've lost Martinelli as well. I don't know how serious that injury is. Obviously not a striker, but he's another sort of forward. And so...
They're in a negative injury cycle at the moment, and that's a key thing. I think people are focused with them on, we need a striker because we're not getting enough goals. But actually, they're losing players in a position. So they've lost Jesus, they've lost Saka, maybe Martinelli. But what it means is this is an obvious point, but the players that are still fit are going to get overplayed a little bit. Yeah. And the attendant risk of them becoming injured becomes greater. You almost need to reverse that trend. I mean, Liverpool found this in the 2021 season, whereby, you know, 2 injured centre-backs begat another 2 injured centre-backs.
Yeah, but this is why you sort of want them to beat United, because they've got no game this weekend. They've all gone and done some warm weather. They've got a couple of games coming up where they're only playing weekends. Then they have a midweek league game when everyone else does, and then it's the fifth round of the Cup. They are then back into the European last 16, so it's only a week to get that time.
Did you want them to beat Newcastle?
But you sort of... I didn't really want them to beat Newcastle because of the notion of momentum, but I was... When the game was breaking against Man United, I was in favour of Arsenal just sort of finding a way, looking a bit shit, but then finding a way through was sort of what I wanted, because I quite like them to have had a game this weekend, just simply because it means you can't go and take all the boys away and put them on the beach and get them all right, which is what they are.
But they're going to have to watch us win at Goodison Park.
Well, yeah, and that's the big thing
on
here.
The telly.
Yeah, I hope they put it on the bigger screen.
Someone's going to... That set piece coach is going to turn it off in disgust at 70 minutes. No, we're not watching any more of this.
That's what he's going to do.
By the way, just a spin-off from what we achieved last night. We've obviously booked ourselves a date in mid-March in the League Cup final at Wembley, but that's knocked forward officially now, that Villa game.
Yeah.
Which means if you look at our fixture list, which was looking very calmly in our favour, there's now, if I'm right in saying, there's 5 league games with very little respite between them, which goes Everton, Wolves, Villa, City, Newcastle. I think
yes,
that's a tasty little 5 there.
It's very tasty.
That's kind of I would be dramatic saying make or break for the season, but we could do with winning 4 of those 5. And I think if we do that, I think we're smoking cigars. Is that too ambitious? 4 out of 5?
I don't think it is. I've got my eye on 5.
Wowzer! I mean, I have to say, on the back of a 4-0 last night, I feel one of the biggest pluses of that is that we go to Goodison with our heads really held high, because it's one of our better performances of the season. It brings forward that 3 points a little bit more. I'm not taking it for granted, but I'm confident about Goodison.
Yeah, no, I'm confident because we're great. And that makes a lot of difference.
Yes, that.
Okay, we'll leave it there from the transfers. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about Plymouth. Okay, we are now back in the room. It is John Gibbons on Midweek Extra. I'm joined by Rob Gutmann and by Ian Salmon and by Neil Atkinson. And I just want to give a shout out to a couple of things. First of all, the Cup final is upon us. The Anfield Wrap got some merch on sale already, expertly designed by Connor. So that is out now. So if you want to have a little look, theanfieldwrap.com/shop. If you want a nice little Cup final tee or a nice little Wembley tee, it'll do you in May as well. When we're back there for the FA Cup final. That is the beauty of the Reds getting to Wembley so much at the moment. Longevity is the key. sustainable shopping, all that sort of thing. The Anfield Wrap are in favour. So the anfieldwrap.com/shop if you want to have a little look at that. Just shout out to other things that are going on at the stadium and Anfield at the moment as well. So half term is coming up. I have got my eye on that. I'm off 3 days, Neil. Hope you've noticed. Monday to Wednesday, looking for things to do with the children. One of the things you can do is take them to the stadium, because during school holidays and half term being no exception, there's loads more at the stadium tour as part of that for children. So scavenger hunts and lots of things like that. But on Wednesday, you get an appearance from Mighty Red as well. So if you want to get your kids along to that, meet Mighty himself. You could do that on Wednesday the 19th.
Itself. Mighty's without gender, sure.
Would you say?
Yeah, Mighty's, yes.
I always thought he was a lad.
Yeah, and I think my man Mighty isn't it.
Okay,
itself.
well, I'll
just space alien. Is he actually a space alien? I think it's and obviously they don't play by the same rules. I think he's a space alien. He's not an animal. You think he's a cormorant?
Well, he's a cormorant.
I don't know.
Well, if you want to book on and ask Mighty,
are you from outer space?
Question 1. Hands up. There's a big child with a beard at the front. If you want to meet Mighty and ask that question or any others, you do need to book on those specific tours. So if you go to lfc.tv/tours, that is the easiest way to get there, or just go through the club website and go to tours from there, and then you book on the specific stadium tours on the 19th, the Mighty Red ones. That is the best way to do it. Also, a shout out for the Legends Q&As, which happen every weekend. I think an exceptional value, really good. You get to hear from someone who's won a lot from Liverpool Football Club, and it's bolted on the end of the stadium tour, and of course the museum, which has been done up as well. So on Saturday the 8th of February, which is tomorrow, there's still tickets available if you want to meet and indeed greet Steve McMahon. And then the week after that, you've got Jimmy Case, who's got some fantastic
They'll both
stories.
kick you.
You have to pay extra for
and
that.
they will blam it. Kick you and blam it.
The museum's brilliant, by the way.
Yeah, it is. It is really, really good. So they are available there as well. But Plymouth, have you spoken to a Plymouth fan yet, Neil?
Yeah, pre-match warm-up
for the Anfield Wrap. So the pre-match
two of them. I got 2 of them.
So people can subscribe and listen to you talk to Plymouth fans.
2 Plymouth fans.
But if you can give them a teaser, a taster, they're playing a bit better, is what I would say.
That was what they were saying. They feel a little bit like it's a nice little break from it, but they are simultaneously also of the view. The manager's view will be the midweek game is more important. Like, he thinks that they might not go absolute full first 11 themselves, because the 24th, but they're beginning to actually claw back some ground on what's ahead of them, and they've got what they view as a bit of a winnable fixture midweek. So that's in there as well. They obviously, they know that Liverpool are a serious proposition. No one's kidding themselves. When I was talking to them about it, there's memories of when they came to Anfield and held us, and then it was only a 1-0 back at their place. But
Lucas scored a header.
Yeah, but we're a different proposition now. You just think
Lucas isn't playing.
Lucas isn't playing for one. But you just also think about the nature of the team that we may well pick, and the number of internationals that I think will be in it. It's just different to what we had to do back then because of where the squad is, and that's the point, is that you effectively your second 11, as you get better, just gets much stronger, and that was early in Klopp's reign, and now it is just going to be a much stronger outfit.
It's interesting. This is almost, without wanting to tempt fate on a training injury or something, we've said from the beginning of the season, if you look at the second 11 we could put out, it's probably the strongest second 11 I can almost ever recall.
Yeah.
But we've never quite had it, because we've probably had 3 or 4 little niggling injuries which have stopped us being able to do it. Now you can do it, and the likes of God love him, McConnell, Morton, Ione aren't getting anywhere near it in theory, unless the manager specifically wants to give them the experience.
I think they will get near it.
If he wants to give them the experience, but there is...
I think McConnell starts.
But there's a lot of lads who need the minutes as well, who are genuine first-team footballers, the Chiesas of this world. Even, Darwin would like to start again,
I think sure. Darwin will start.
Do you?
Yeah.
So
that's why it's taken
will
off,
he not start Jota?
No, I don't think Jota will start. I think they're going to manage Jota. I think they're managing Jota's minutes in quite an interesting way, and I think he may well be another 60 Darwin, 30 Jota in this one. I think he'll start Ungamoa, and I think he'll start Chiesa.
So you're not starting. So that's Diaz. You're leaving out for 2 games.
I think Diaz travels and is on the bench and becomes part of it, but I think they've seen a little opportunity to give Diaz just sort of.
Recharge.
Yeah,
just sort of give it a little bit of a recharge. Same with McAllister. I think you look at both of them, that feels a little bit to me like, no, we can take a little bit of a little mini chance in one sense, but in another sense, give Jones the opportunity. And I think, I could be wrong on Jota. I just sort of even thought when he came on last night, he just didn't quite look quite as sharp as you sort of used to seeing.
Yeah, he gets an opportunity to break away straight away, doesn't he? And ends up losing it.
And he didn't quite have it. And I wonder whether or not the plan with him is to get the best possible Jota for the other side of the international break. Like, what would help see this team home would be the brilliance of an absolutely 100% Diogo Jota in April and May.
But he has been. He's arguably been doing that with Gomez a bit, and I think them leaving Gomez out is more. He's not been in the last couple of squads. Is more that he needs managing. I don't want to drop him in too soon. But he's got Jota back in very, very quickly. I do think he will start Jota. He might pull him at half time or on the hour, but my gut feeling is he will start.
I just think.
He can start Jota and Diaz if he Jota and Nunes if he wants to.
I think there's an interesting question arose around Nunes, which I don't know if anyone's talked about yet. Is Nunes' selection ahead of Diaz last night was a surprise. We all thought Liverpool would go full on first 11 last night because there was no reason not to. For rhythm, there's a clear, as good as week till Everton. Go keep the first team in rhythm. Now, okay, I can see McAllister maybe dropped out because you want to manage his minutes, played a lot of football. Nunes for Diaz, I might be wrong, might it be a hint that he fancies having a little look at changing his front three for a bit and maybe serving a dual purpose, refreshing Diaz, but also seeing what Nunes can contribute. And I'm not ruling out that Nunes may get the nod in the derby ahead of Diaz. I don't know. I think Diaz could be on the bench and get significant minutes against Plymouth, whereas I think the likes of Salah, maybe Gakpo won't get near the squad.
No. I think we can all rule out Salah and Gakpo to start, can't we?
Yeah. Gravenberg, you can rule out. Van Dijk, I think.
All right, well, let's go to the midfield then. We're picking the team in the round table like in the 50s, and we're going to hand it over to the manager. So let's do the midfield then. So if we are ruling out Gravenberg and Szoboszlai, so are we picking Elliott? Are we picking
100%.
Harvey?
Yep.
He's got to get a game somewhere, hasn't he?
Are we going to pick McAllister, or are we just going to let him off this week off?
He's on the bench for me.
Yeah, on the bench. So then we'll pay McConnell.
No, what about
Endo?
Endo, Elliott and Jones for me all day long.
So you go Jones again?
Yeah, and I might put McConnell on.
Could be why took him off on 70 last night.
Unless you want to look at McConnell in a specific way. But Championship isn't League One.
He might play. He
could play Endo as centre-half. And play Endo and Quansah.
This isn't Accrington at home. I think, with all due respect to Accrington, Plymouth, disrespect to Accrington actually, Plymouth are still a Championship side and they're on their own pitch. I think we want to win the game. I don't think
are they worse than PSV Eindhoven?
Oh yeah, obviously, yeah.
So he starts McConnell at PSV Eindhoven.
But he doesn't give a flying fuck if he gets beaten 4-0.
I don't know how much of a flying fuck he actually gives on this, but also I think obviously he'll never want to lose. But the point is, I think it's perfectly legitimate to go Endo, McConnell, Elliott, and take Jones and possibly take McAllister.
He's legit,
and have them on the bench and sort of say, well, if we need to do X or Y and move people around, well, we can do that. That's a move for us. But I'd be going Endo, McConnell. I would go Endo, McConnell, Elliott in the middle of the park.
I think I might too, because I think we all want to see McConnell again. I think the manager will be excited to see him again.
I just think if you've gone to all this fuss of not sending him out on loan, if he doesn't start this, what does he start? The fifth round's not going to get easier.
You've taught me around.
The fifth round,
I agree.
Yeah.
I think the only thing for me is if Endo drops to centre half and because he'll
Gomez needs a game,
Jones
right?
At the 6.
You see Gomez, he might be tempted to play Gomez at right back.
I know,
because so he's done a press conference and he said Morton's out, so we can't play him. He's out for 4 weeks with a shoulder thing, and he said that he basically Trent's out for the weekend and he's touch and go for the Everton game, and he's like pointed out, well, it's only 3 days later, so if he can't play this one, then it's a lot to sort of get ready. I wonder whether they might think if I need Bradley 3 times in a week, that's quite a bit for him. So he might do Gomez at right back.
I think you might do 45 for Bradley, Quansah and Gomez at centre half, and if the game's full stop, make the decision. But I'd say also if the game's going well, maybe do Naomi for Bradley, Endo to centre back and Gomez to right back, and that way around you're giving Trey 45, so you're not putting too much on him. Yeah, you're using Endo in a clever way. Gomez therefore gets his 90 under his belt and goes from there. As previously discussed, I wouldn't start Jota, but you do Jota for Nunez between 45 and 60, and then you might use Diaz for
What about McConnell and Curtis Jones sitting as double pivot with Elliott roaming free ahead? That liberates you then to have Endo at centre back, say with Quansah, which liberates you in turn to have Gomez as your right back, and that solves your Conor Bradley
Well,
problem.
I think it's not solving a problem. I think he might just want Bradley to play another game of football before the derby because he's not played that much football. I think it's back to your double-edged sword. You want the players, Bradley needs a little bit of rhythm. He's come on for 20 against, but you're saying it's not 3 games. He's come on for 20 against Bournemouth. He didn't play the whole game against Bournemouth. He's done 20 against Bournemouth. He's played this midweek one against Tottenham. Maybe they'll just sort of look at it. I'd go with the flexibility of saying to Bradley, all right, we're just going to keep you ticking, make sure you're right, you're in good shape. It's not the same as, players like Salah, Van Dijk, Gravenberch, Szoboszlai, they're banging rhythm, and the idea of playing Thursday, playing Wednesday is absolutely fine. I just sort of wonder with Bradley, do you want to just give him another 45 minutes to keep him pairing and keep it moving, and if he is going to be needed for the derby? But again, I could be wrong, and probably am. But I think, then that gives you a bit of time to settle the game down, and it also means I think there's something in you want to give Gomez 45 in his proper position.
Yes.
I don't think and also the manager's sort of not wanted to be that much. I mean, Endo, he's utility man in his head off with, but the rest of them have, it's interesting who has to move and who doesn't. And I've sort of got the impression with Gomez, he's wanted him to be quite settled as a centre back.
So who doesn't even make the trip then, working from back to front? The two centre halves.
Also, there's an argument to start Jaros. Without being daft about it, I think you can argue that maybe you throw Jaros in because Keller has just got that game as well. But yeah, I think Konate and Van Dijk you don't take, Gravenberch you don't take, Szoboszlai you don't take. Yeah, you probably put Robertson on the bench.
Yeah, I think so.
And Salah you don't take, and Gakpo you don't take, and I think everyone else you take.
Yeah.
So you end up with a bit of a half and half bench.
Yeah, because you're not going to expect them to. It's a weekend anyway. You don't need them to train at the weekend, do you? With the boys left behind.
He talked a little bit in the press conference today about the beauty of sleeping in your own bed. He said well, someone. He said he was more of advocate. It was more someone told him it was a good idea, and he was like, "It's hard to argue, isn't it?"
I disagree on. I love hotels.
You love a hotel.
Do you sleep better though, or do you just like the
No, I just like the magic of it.
Yeah, that's slightly different. You're not.
I don't play better.
Yeah. You're no longer a professional athlete, Rob. Do you know what I mean?
No, not these days. No.
Yeah, exactly. So you're approaching it from different.
True. Yeah.
You like that there's biscuits in the room.
I guess Arna's not saying when you had those 10 pints.
Yeah, exactly.
And you want to sleep in your hotel room or your own bed rather than a hotel room. No, it's not the same, is it?
No, it's not the same. Well, I'm glad we've sorted that out.
Yes, we have.
Anyway, loads more looking ahead to Plymouth. Might be some bed chat in press conference extra. Who knows where Andy will take that, but that will be out probably now. To be honest with you, we'll have video and audio previews looking ahead to the game. There's loads from last night. I thought the post-match stuff was excellent. I was listening to it on the drive-in, really enjoying the energy of the Glen Book as ever, and people getting excited about this Liverpool team going to Wembley. And next week, listen, it's massive, isn't it? It's the Merseyside derby, and we will cover that fantastically well, I'm sure. So great time to subscribe to the Anfield Wrap, get stuck in, download the app, you'll get some tokens, you can have a bit more of a sample of what we're about outside of this free stuff. And come and join us. It's an exciting end to the season, exciting middle to the season. It's all been brilliant, and it is great to watch. And Arna Slott's boys are absolutely pairing today with Rob Gutmann, Ian Salmon and Neil Atkinson. Thanks a lot to the boys on the vid as well. Up the Reds.